So, in the spirit of school holidays and students being on holiday, we decided to share a story from our entrepreneurship days as students. So, that's what we're going to be talking about in this presentation. And then the overview of the presentation is the problem we were solving, the capital that was needed to get started, finding our main supplier, how we determined the selling price, channels for product distributions, some moments, challenges, and lessons, and some closing remarks just to close off the presentation and the overall experience. So the problem we were solving was that every festive season in our hometown, there would be a shortage of ice cubes between the 22nd of December and the 31st of December for people who were social gathering. So if you think about reunions, parties, where people are getting together during festive season, during the period of the 22nd until the 31st of December, you would then find that retailers have a shortage of ice cubes. And then the few providers who were able to supply during this period, they were also doing it at a very high markup so that they were able to sell out. And they were still able to sell out, I mean. So you'd find that the price jumped from like 25 Rand to 50 Rand a bag, but they were still selling out. So it was like, okay, there's a huge demand, and the people who are selling are also selling out. So, when catching up with family members in other areas within the province, we realized that the problem stretched beyond our hometown and it was across the whole province where it was events, traditional ceremonies. People were experiencing a supply shortage between this last 2 weeks of December. So that was like, okay, this is a problem we need to solve. And then, of course, like every other business, you need capital to get started. We said we're going to buy 50 bags at 5 Rand each from the supplier. So we're able to get a supplier who sold us each bag for 5 Rand. And we said, okay, let's go and buy 50 of the bags. So if you're buying 50 bags at 5 Rand, that would costed us 250 Rand. We didn't have transport capital to collect the ice. The bags were enough to fit in a small private car, so we didn't have to like get a bakkie or a commercial car to come pick up the ice bags. We could do it with a small private car. We also did not need storage capital as the bags could fit in at the fridge at home, and also we were also able to fit some of the ice bags at my friend's place. So we're running the business as two business owners. So we only needed few money to go money to get petrol so that we can go visit the few clients around town. But it was never like a heavy capital that was needed to get the business going. And then just to touch on finding the supplier. So the supplier actually stayed a few meters away from my business partner's place. So we had there's this rugby field in town where there's a guy who had an ice maker at the bar. So we went and spoke to him, and then we inquired about how does he operate and how does he supply to retailers, and he told us the whole process. He was actually very friendly. He even mentioned some of the retailers he supplies in town, and he was even straightforward with how much he charges per bag to everyone. So we were buying the bags at the same price that the retailers were buying the price as well. And then he also said he would do us a favor and sell us a few bags to get started as long as he has provided his main customers or if we're able to come after the suppliers have purchased. So luckily enough, the time when we wanted to buy, he had produced a lot of ice bags, so we were able to get the supply, and then we held on to it until there was more demand in the market. And then how did we determine our selling price? So we obviously looked at how much the retailers were charging. We looked at how much the supplier was charging us. So the supplier was charging us 5 Rand, the retailers were charging around 25 Rand, but during the peak season it could go up as high as 40 rand. So we're considering the demand in putting a price tag. And then we also considered the cost to transport the bags to our storage at home and the deliveries around town. So when we qualitatively assessed that cost, it wasn't a huge cost at all. So we could put, let's say, 200 rand petrol, and it was enough to do all our deliveries if someone needed an ice bag. And then, so we decided that we are gonna sell each bag for 50 rand, including delivery. Channels for product distribution. So there was a local bottle store, so we had a relationship the with the guy who was working at the bottle store. So one of the guys we grew up with actually had a relationship there. So there was a time when they needed ice bags, and when we saw that they needed the ice bags, we just drove to the place and we showed them the ice bags and they took them. So that was one of the ways we were able to sell out our first stock, and that went by very fast. And then there was also another local hangout spot that we were able to sell the ice bags to. So they just needed ice to keep their people entertained, and where they usually buy the ice bags, they'd run out. And then there was also an event where we knew happened every year. I think it was about two events that happened every year around that period. And then we spoke to the guys, and they allowed us to be the ice suppliers at the event. And then, yeah, I would also just promote it on our social media, and people would reach out just wanting to support, because as a student, you also have that advantage of people just wanting to support. So some people were just buying to support what you're doing. And then moments, challenges, and lessons, right? So there was a time, I think this was in our second year of the business, we decided to buy a bigger fridge because we wanted to buy more bulk. So the first year had gone so well that December, we decided that the second December we need to have a bigger fridge. So we put our money together, me and my friend, and we bought a bigger fridge. And then we still needed more space. So we then asked one of our friends, which was also a nice moment to realize that friends will also support you when you're doing business. There's this saying where people say, no, you can never get support from friends, but we did get some of our support from friends, where one guy borrowed us the small fridge from his house that he wasn't using anymore, and then we were able to use that as part of our storage. And then even fetching that fridge, a friend of ours came with his small bakkie and he helped us carry it at no cost. So there were moments where friends were enabling this business to grow without us having to spend more money. And then there was a shortage where the supplier we were getting the ice, they were running out of the ice to supply to everyone. So we had to start producing our own inventory. So we tried to make our own ice. It was a slow process, but we would take a plastic bag, fill it with water, place it properly in the deep freeze, try to yeah, give it time, but it was a very slow process. But I'd say we were able to maybe produce 50 of those type of bags. And yeah, and then there was times when the day would be so hot, and then the ice bags are melting while we are out doing deliveries, and then you just have to make sure you sell them as fast as possible before they melt out. So even in your sales pitch, you'd be telling people that, please help me take this ice. I know you're gonna need it, and it's melting. So the sooner you take it, the better. You start having all those sales techniques that we had to then start practicing. And then there was also a time when we didn't have inventory at all. I think this was like our final year. There was a time when, yeah, we had just sold out everything and we couldn't find suppliers, and the producing of our own inventory was not happening fast enough. We actually wanted to buy our own ice maker, but yeah, it was quite expensive. Looking at the one we needed and how you need to treat the room where you're gonna put the ice maker, it was quite capital. It needed a huge capital investment. So I think that's when also we were nearing the end of varsity and we just stopped the business. But it was a good business to just get your hands dirty and learn about taking opportunity, feeling a demand, using your free time, and yeah, just to be productive as a student. Let me see if I've got another slide. And then just my closing remarks is just to say that it's easier to start a business where there is a proven demand for the solution. Like as you can see, we kept realizing that there's more and more demand and there's less and less supply. So you might as well just go and plug in into that demand. So it's easier to start a business where there is a proven demand. You need to have liquidity to take advantage of the opportunity. So, I mean, as students, you don't have a lot of money, but the few savings that we had enabled us to get started, right? Having a reliable supplier can be a do or die for a business that is selling products. As you can see, uh, our supplier helped us get started, but him running slow made us run slow as well. So it was like catch 22, if I may call it that. Um, if you don't understand how to price your product, you will run a loss-making business. So for us, lucky enough, the markups on ice when there's a demand during that period it's massive. So, but you need to be very uh, careful when pricing so that you don't make a loss. Distribution is everything. Even with the best product, if you don't know where you're gonna sell it, it becomes a failing business or a failing product. But yeah, and remember to have fun, guys. Remember to have fun with this type of business, especially as a student.